And we're rolling. Hello. So today is, what is today? Today is August 17th, 2018. And here's your reading. Let me just review your question. You wanted reading about your love life. And I asked if you were with anybody right now, and you said no, you've been single for 7 years, and you're hoping someone is coming into your life soon. And I had asked if there were any specific activities you were thinking of exploring in order to meet new people, and you said not really. And you said that, again, you know, just asking if someone's new is coming into your life this year. And you said that you go out a lot, and you've been asked out, but they just didn't interest you enough to say yes. So it seems like, yeah, we don't need to focus on meeting people because you're meeting people, but you're not meeting the kind of people that you want to say yes to. So let's take a look at that. Now, okay, so you chose animals, and so we're going to start off with an oracle card from The Secret Language of Animals by Chip Richards. And this deck is made by my favorite oracle card artist, Jimmy Manton, who's Australian. And so I used that 9-digit number that you gave me to draw one of these cards for you. And let's take a look. I think this just sets the tone for the reading, using like an oracle card at the beginning that you've chosen. You got air. So in the animals deck, there's actually the 4 elements are present in the animals deck. So this is for animals who live up in the air, really, but you have to actually do the elements. So thought, alignment, breath, intention. So once again, you got air, and it's thought, alignment, breath, and intention. So in a romantic reading, this could be an indicator that what we need to explore is, you know, how can you think about things differently in terms of the people you're meeting and whether or not they're suitable for you and where you're meeting them and all of that. Being in alignment is important too, because, you know, in terms of fate, in terms of energies, in terms of hitting it off with other people, your energy needs to be aligned. And I look at that as maybe mental energy, so maybe resonating on an intellectual level. And then breath and intention, breath being calm, intention. I think since you're a stranger to me, you know, and doing readings for strangers, I don't know much about you, but one question you can ask yourself is, what is your intention in meeting someone else? Is it because it's something that you're supposed to be doing because that's just what people do? Or is it, you know, is it really, are you throwing it all, are you throwing all the cards down? Are you going all in to try to meet someone else? Like, what is your intention in pursuing a relationship? So just a few thoughts to ponder as we get started with the reading. Now, I also use that same number to draw you a tarot card, and I like to save this one until the end. I think it either, sometimes I think it sums up the reading or it gives you some guidance, so it can act as a guide card, and I like to look at that last. So that was the card you drew as well. So let's get started. I'm just going to draw a foundation of 3 cards for you. One, 2, and 3. And I forgot to mention, the deck you chose, these are the Universal Weight Tarot by Mary Hanson Roberts. They're a redrawing of the Pamela Coleman Smith tarot cards. So let's see. Okay, so you got the Hierophant reversed. Usually I read reversals as blocked energy. So, and the most common ways I express that blocked energy when I describe cards are delay or things that are difficult. And usually difficult things take a long time to get through, so those are kind of 2 sides of the same coin. However, with this card, I kind of want to go in a different direction. I do kind of want to read it as an opposite in this case. So I would say that the Hierophant is all about orthodoxy. It's about orthodoxy and also spiritual connection. There's a third definition that one of my teachers in tarot liked to have for this card, which is also the archetype of the wounded healer. So someone who has the ability to heal and help others because they've gone through it themselves. But the first thing I picked up on this card when I saw the Hierophant reversed, though, is that the usual definition of the card, meaning orthodoxy, following the rules, like religion, the way religion has laws. I was looking at this as like unorthodoxy. So I wonder if you are coming from a place either personality-wise, the way you live your life, politically, socially, somehow unorthodox. So that means like blazing your own trail, doing what you do despite what others think. So maybe not so much what I was describing when we were describing this, when I was describing the Oracle card with the intention. Are you looking for a relationship just to have one because that's what people are supposed to do? I think that's probably what I was saying about this Oracle card, not the direction we needed to go. So I see you as coming from a place of unorthodoxy here, but I think there's also, given that I'm doing the reading for you, I think that this other special definition that I have of the Hierophant of being the wounded healer, you might want to look at that and see if in some ways in past relationships, and since you've been single for 7 years, it might have been a long time, but is there an element of the wounded healer that has come up in your previous relationships where maybe, what's that phrase that I like sometimes say to people? Have you ever been attracted to the wounded bird? Someone who, you need to take under your wing and you feel like you need to heal them or help them in some way? Is that where you're coming from on a relationship level? But I think basically, though, I think in your past and who you are and who you've built up to be, there might be definitely some unorthodoxy here. Now, coming to the next card, we've got the Miser card, which is the base definition of the card, but for the Four of Pentacles, really, if we look at kind of the symbols here, so Pentacles for me usually mean groundedness. They mean livelihood, like the way you need to work to put a roof over your head or pay for, food, clothing, things like that. And also, your job in terms of livelihood, but also stability. Because if this is the Four of Pentacles, so the Four of Pentacles, if you think of a table having four legs, the fours often represent stability in tarot. So I think, one of the places where you are right now is that you are in a place where things are very grounded for you, and you have found a way to give yourself a lot of stability on the home front in your home life. So I think that's really good. I think monetarily too, that if you see the Miser definition of the card applying to you too, this could mean that you're in a period of being fiscally conservative right now, maybe drawing in spending for some reason. But when people are fiscally conservative, they're usually doing it in order to give themselves a sense of stability in terms of their home life too. So that looks really good, and it absolutely looks like you're ready for a relationship. So you got the Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups are about emotions and romance and things like that. And the 10 is really in terms of the minor arcana, they're the culmination of the suit. If you look at the tarot as a journey, in this case, it would be the journey of 1 through 10. This is the culmination. If you just look at the image of the card, you have like a very happy family. This would be in contrast to the 10 of Pentacles, where you see a family this is a very humble dwelling in this card. But in another one of the sort of love relationship cards that is very favorable, that card is really about, like, I don't know what's the phrase I'm searching for? Like monetarily, it's like the power couple. It's like you have generations represented, you have an affluent household, things like that, people lavishly dressed. In contrast, this card is like more relationships in terms of pure joy. You have two children playing, getting along, you've got the rainbow in the sky. So, and usually if you ask people, which would you rather have, this is the one that they would rather have. They would rather have the fulfilling relationship on an emotional level. So I would say that this is in the cards for you. So that it came up as a foundation. I think this is definitely what you're aiming for. You're aiming for the not a relationship in order to gain security for yourself on the home front. You already seem to have that. So it's like you're not trying to marry for money. You're not trying to. I don't think you're. What's that movie? I'm not a good movie person, but I'm thinking of that film with Tom Cruise in it where at the end they say "you complete me" or whatever. I think is Jerry Maguire. I think that's it. Like sometimes, like people look that line from the movie, like, "Oh, I'm looking for someone to complete me." I think what I'm getting from here is you're already complete. You don't need someone to complete you, but you are looking for a relationship for the right reasons, for some sort of emotional fulfillment. And I think it's for that mutual fulfillment. So it's like, I think in your case it would be the sum of the parts. What is it? The whole is greater than the sum of the parts is the cliche I'm looking for. So overall, I think the outlook is good. So now let me think for a moment to figure out, like, for the stage 2 part of the reading. I'm just going to spot your question again. Well, one of the things you said is you go out a lot and have been asked out, but they just didn't interest me enough to say yes. So that's interesting. So I'm trying to think, now that I've seen this, about how, like, you seem to be in the right spot for the relationship. How can we explore why it is that the law of attraction isn't working so much, right? Because, like, if you believe in the law of attraction, the energy that you're putting out into the universe attracts you. Like, the wavelength that you're putting out is what you attract it to you. So for some reason, you've been getting attention, but you don't think that the people come to you are right for you in some way. So I think maybe the contrast we should draw, I'm just trying to work it out in my head. Maybe the contrast we can draw for you would be looking at the attracting aspect of your energy versus the mental aspect of the energy. Meaning, what does the energy look like of what you're attracting? So are you is the energy that you're putting out somehow not quite right for, like, who you're bringing into your life? Or is it that maybe you're attracting the right people and it's that fine, but there's some sort of, since we got air, maybe there's like some sort of mental block, like, okay, you're just not seeing that maybe of the people who have been asking you out on dates, maybe someone was appropriate, but for some reason you weren't seeing it. Because perhaps your standards were too high. I'm just trying to think of stereotypical things, right? Where people, like, in sitcoms and whatnot, it comes up like, like people reject, but maybe not for the right reasons. So I'm going to draw 2 cards. I'm going to draw one for the law of attraction energy for you. And then let's draw a card for the your perception of the people coming. What's the energy of how you're perceiving the people that are coming to you? Maybe if there's something off about your thought process, I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. Like maybe you're not giving people enough of a chance. Oops. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so the law of attraction energy is, well, first of all, both of these are reversed. So already I'm kind of thinking that your current situation looks very favorable to the relationship, but like in the two things, like the two things that are like about making the connection I just drew for you, they're both reversed. So it's really interesting that both are reversed. So I wonder if the whole being in alignment thing is off for you, and that's how this ties into the theme of the reading. So let's look. So I drew this one for the law of attraction, and in fact, ironically, this is actually nothing's ironic in tarot, but you drew the other card that I was describing earlier, right? So over here we have the Ten of Pentacles as in opposition to the Ten of Cups, right? This is the card with like the lavishly dressed like grandfather type figure. You've got you've got three generations in the card. You've got these family crests. You have this enormous painting. You have like an archway, a very lavish home. You've got these lovely little dogs here. It's the big happy family. These people are very well off and whatnot. Yet, most people would choose the emotional fulfillment aspect of the relationship. So so there's two ways I could read this. Okay. So it could be that this is what you actually are aiming for. Like this is, if we look at the three foundation as kind of a sentence, like where you've been, kind of like where you are and where you're headed. It seems like where you are actually trying to be headed is this emotionally fulfilling relationship. But in terms of manifesting here, we have the image of the not so emotionally fulfilling, but more of the power couple relationship, or the kind of relationship where you're getting something out of it. So to me, the manifestation, it could be that you're coming across or looking for maybe the wrong kind of guy. So in terms of manifesting, like, it's kind of hard with a stranger, but let me like bring up a hypothetical. Like, the Sex and the City girls, like, how they're just like, they're dressed to the nines, they're always going out on the town, and then for the most part, the like, Samantha is always dating like, it's been so long since I watched this show, I can't even remember the details. Let me forget about the show, and I'll just say, imagine a person who's like very successful themselves. They always dress like in really fancy, affluent attire, and they're going out on the town in the affluent attire, and then they're trying to attract someone very similar to them, the man in the business suit, or the woman in the business suit, as far as that goes, or whatever, and kind of like, they're all playing on the same level that way, but a very sort of upper crust level. But then, the actual relationship to go back to the Samantha, she actually like ends up with some artsy guy eventually that's kind of not in her universe. So I wonder if this could be like a mismatch of the universe, like, so that, in terms of manifesting, you might be manifesting people that are maybe, if you're the affluent person, then maybe you're going after other affluent people. And that's not the kind of attraction you really need for this emotional fulfillment, or vice versa. It could be that if you're the affluent person, but you love artsy people that are like, the sort of, like hippies, or people who are not well off, who are in a different, who run in different circles from you, and actually it would be more fulfilling and comforting to be with someone who's actually on the same level as you, whatever that level might be. I'm just saying like affluent and artsy, just like to pull like two contrasts. But I'm just seeing like, you'll have to figure out for you what the contrasts are. But I feel like maybe somehow the people you're meeting are either too similar or too different from you. And so if the people that you're meeting are really similar for you, it might be time to branch out and to try to get dates with people who are different. Or if you're only meeting people that are different from you, like maybe you're artsy and you're not affluent, and you are hanging out with people who are, maybe you actually want to be with someone who's more on the same wavelength with you. I think there's some sort of polar opposite. This is an indicator that I think like the energy maybe there's a polar opposite in some fundamental thing that makes you, like fundamental criteria for a relationship that you have, that maybe you need to like flip that switch and start making connections with like the polar opposite here. That's what I'm getting from that card in terms of the manifesting energy. Now, this one I drew for the whole how you're perceiving like the people that are coming into your life. So is it not just like who's walking up to you and the art of manifesting, but is there like some sort of mental, I don't want to say block, like the, you know, the whole like, is the judgment off? Is the, when you said you weren't interested, let me just go back to what you wrote to me on the computer over here. So, I go out a lot and have been asked out, but they just didn't interest me enough to say yes. So to me, this is what we're trying to dig into here is, why are these people not interesting to you? And are they truly not interesting to you? Or is this a self-sabotage or something like that? So you've got the Hermit. So I don't know if I mentioned that these are both major arcana cards. So these are big archetypical cards where they're kind of like milestones in your life, I would say. They have to do with like the big things in your life, the things that you remember like decades later, not the things that you kind of forget about that are mundane. So there is something big here because this is a major. Now the way I read the Hermit, and again, blocked energy on this level because it was reversed. The way I read the Hermit is a number of ways. There's definitely an element of solitariness in the Hermit, like the base definition of the card. So is it because, one of the things I could think of is that maybe you're kind of like, I don't want to use the term lone wolf, because lone wolf has overtones of being unhealthy, but maybe you enjoy solitude, I guess, is a more neutral way to say it. Are you really the type of person who enjoys solitude, and that, you know, that makes it so that, you know, if you're meeting people in a very gregarious circumstance and your energies are off from that perspective, that like the hypothetical I'll come up with is that, you know, you meet someone who loves going hiking and kayaking and always out and about, or you're meeting someone who always loves to go to parties and like dance clubs and goes out drinking all the time, and maybe you're more of a, I'd rather cook a meal at home, I'd rather sit out on the porch and watch the sunset, or that kind of person. I'm wondering if there's a sort of, maybe that's part of the root of the mismatch here. But let me go to the deeper definition of the card. So the Hermit, I mean, people often seek that solitude out because it's a part of their quest for enlightenment. So if you look at the Fool's Journey of the Tarot, this could also have to do with finding some sort of enlightenment, and that enlightenment is really symbolized in the lantern, by the lantern that the Hermit is carrying. Now this is only the 9, so there's 22 major arcana cards, and if you look at them as a journey, they run 0 to 21. So this is 9. This is still in the first half of the journey. So although the Hermit has found some enlightenment, the thing I like to point out about the card is that the illumination's in the lantern. So he kind of captured a spark of it, but it isn't incorporated into his being yet. So that's like, this is not the be all and end all, but like, you know, this is like, what do the kids say these days? This is becoming woke. So I would say, you know, this might be you waking up to what you truly want. So in essence though, waking up to what you truly want, but these people that you've been meeting, you know, haven't been to your liking. So there could be an element of the fact that this is reversed now. Reading like the advice to you is like, is the question like, is this one of those situations where what you think you want and what you actually want are two different things? And the other thing, because reversals for me, the blocked energy could be that of delay. This could be also the fact that perhaps these people who have asked you out, and I just realized too, you said that I go out a lot and have been asked out, but they just didn't interest me enough to say yes. So, I mean, there's a lot of dating clubs. I think one of them, like there's a dating club in New York City or someplace, I think it's called, It's Just Lunch is the name of the club or the service or whatever. And, you know, going on a date with someone, it's just lunch. like, you know, it's not like you're not signing a contract, you're not having to like go into debt, it's just lunch. So in terms of part of this hermit thing, because of this reversal, the being woke aspect, it could be that, you know, well, if you're meeting these people, they actually are interested in you enough to ask you out, but then you say no, maybe the signal here is that you need to be giving them a chance, right? And that, you know, you're kind of cutting them off at the pass. So you think you know what you want, therefore you kind of aren't giving people a chance, enough of a chance. Like, so the time frame is off because like you basically you kind of shut off the tap before the bucket's full, or that's not a real thing, but you know, that's what I'm getting from this card here, that, you know, maybe perhaps you are not actually yeah, just giving people a chance and letting things blossom. Like a spark takes time to turn into a flame and a fire. So, you know, so if you look at the hermit is finally captured the spark. Once you capture that spark, you have to fan the flames in order to really turn it into a fire. And if you don't go out on the date, how are you ever going to fan the flame and get it into a fire? So that could be the blockage here, that, you know, there's sparks but no fire. And you might want to consider like the approach where you are doing the evaluation on a very limited piece of information because you're actually not going out on the first date with folks. So let me see if there's any other sort of clarifications I want to do for you here. I'm going to pick an action for you to take now. So what's like a piece of advice, an action to take, and then an action, something not to do. Let's pull two more. So what to do, what not to do. Okay. This is a lot of blockage in this whole process aspect of dating. So this is really interesting. So what to do, this is judgment. So this card is really about rebirth. It's kind of like, this is Christian imagery here, but you can also think about it as like the phoenix who rises from the ashes. So this could be your time to be reborn and reinvent yourself. So do would be, I would say, like, is there some aspect of yourself or any idea like about your current life where you've been thinking about reinventing yourself in some way? And to be super stereotypical, and you'll have to tell me if you think this is sexist. I hope this isn't sexist, but, you know, there's a cliche that one of my female friends told me that, you know, a woman who is, wait, what is it? A woman who changes her hair is about to change her life. So like, you know, if you have long hair and you cut it all off or something, that's like, you know, the reason why that happens is something deeper is going on and you're ready for some huge change. So if there's anything like that in your life where, you know, you're thinking about doing some sort of big change, and it's like, you know, there might be a superficial thing that happens, kind of like those midlife crisis-y things, like Michelle Obama got bangs, whatever it is. Like a man might buy one of those cars that make you think he's impotent, you know, and stuff like that. If there's something like that you've been doing, I would say examine what that is and what the deeper reason is for it, and think about, like, because this was the do card, so is there something like that coming up for you right now, and maybe this is like the impetus to do it. However, because the card was reversed, it's saying that I think it'd be really hard for you to do it. Like, you maybe have been toying with this, either you've been toying with this idea for a long time and you're not quite ready, or you know, it's come to you, but it's so drastic, you're just like, that's not me, I can't do that, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's encouraging you to make some sort of big change, like a rebranding of yourself, something like that. That's on the do side. So on the don't side, I think this definitely, because it's a sword, swords are about the mind, swords are the air element, they're about mind, thinking. In excess, this can be anxiety or depression and stuff like that. But from a thinking perspective, since we got air over here, it's the air energy. So what not to do, I would say, is that to me, this resonates with kind of where we were going with where I was trying to go with my description in this card, like getting stuck in your head about what you want and what you don't want. So the King of Swords, kings basically are authority figures, they are rulers, they have masculine energy or yang energy, or however you want to say it. They can use that energy in a transformative way. So that's the element of transformation is in the butterflies on the back of the throne there. So they can use that energy for transformation, but in essence, though, this would be like, where do you have mastery over thinking and thoughts and your own mental energy? And I would say, you know, kings often get used to power and used to like what they have, and they can get set in their ways, and because they're authority figures, you know, they always get their way. And so that kind of power can be there's a dark side and a light side to every card. So I would say if you're the type of person who feels sort of disempowered a lot, this might be advice to you to like actually use your mental energy to command the situation. I'm kind of thinking, I don't know you, but just intuitively, I think it's the opposite advice here. It's that, you know, if you're the kind of person who, like, you know, you're very intellectual, you're very smart and all of that, and you usually get your way because you have so much expertise and command over that mental energy and intellectual energy, I would say that it might be time to rein that in a little bit. And like, because this is the don't, I'm thinking it's the problem is thought and alignment are at odds for you, and that maybe like all of the mental stuff that you're doing, like all of the judgy things that are happening for you to basically upon first meeting someone, being able to say no to a first date without actually spending some time to getting to know someone, seeing if they're different in a one-on-one situation than in a group situation and stuff like that. There might be you might have like a lot of mental process behind that. So you might be one of those people who's stuck in your head, you play it all out before it's even had a chance to play out in real life. So from that perspective, this is on the don't side. It's probably reversed, because I would say that if that's whatever intellectual activity is rolling around here, it's probably going to be really hard for you to rein that in, just because we are creatures of habit. We get stuck in our habits and whatnot. That's what I'm getting from that. So tell me if that resonates. I'm trying to think if there's might be an alternate way to interpret this for you in terms of the action not to take sort of position. Now I'm going to leave it there. Now let's take a look at the card that you picked. Let's see, this will either be some guidance or a way to sum up all of the cards here, but this is the one that you picked. Interesting. Okay, so this is like, so the Nine of Swords, so this is again a thought card, right? I actually really like this card a lot. It came up as reversed for you. So if you look at the image on the card, this is really about a nightmare. So there's a woman sitting up in bed and she has her heads in her hands. So like, what do you do? Why would your heads be in your hand if you're in bed? You probably just had a nightmare, right? And it's probably about something you're wrestling with, because if you probably can't see this on camera, but there's a carving on the side of the bed here of two people fencing, right? So fencing uses swords, so there's some sort of intellectual battle, mental battle, like battle of thoughts and that sort of thing going on. So that's like when you're in bed and you're rolling thoughts around in your head, and there's like that sort of internal battle. But there's, again, like I was kind of saying up here, there's a light side and a dark side to every card. So one of the reasons why I really love this card is that, you know, when you get the nightmare card, the best thing about this card is that nightmares are not real. When you've been having a nightmare and it's really disturbing and you wake up, like, even though you might still be distraught about it, like, the whole point is that, well, you've just woken up. So if you were being chased by a bear or whatever, that wasn't real. It was all in your head. So I'm really now getting, like, we look at, especially like if we look at the King of Swords again and the Hermit, and now that we've got this card as your guidance card, I think some of this stuff, so been single for 7 years, you've been saying no to a lot of people, I would say that definitely, like, you might be stuck in your head about this stuff. And it might be stuck in your head about some sort of expectation you have where, I know how And actually, the imagery of the card really is making me think of this. Okay, so what I was trying to articulate over here, I think is coming a little more clear to me. So, you know how some people have, as like an exercise that you might do in therapy, or like even from a Cosmo quiz or whatever, like you might have because this, all 9 of these swords are in line like this, like a piece of binder paper. I'm wondering, like, if you have a list of things in your mind about what you want in that mate, right? And so many people in romance, like, what happens is, they have like a list of qualities that they're looking for in a mate. They could be like superficial or physical qualities, like I want them to have this color hair, those colored eyes, I want him to be at least 5 inches taller than me. Everybody kind of has a laundry list or a wish list for these things, but then like when you hear people in romance, like when they actually come down to having a relationship, the list actually goes out the window. Like I know someone, I have a friend who, she always said that when she was young, she always used to love like I don't know can't remember how she termed it, but like the corn-fed boy, like, the sort of, well, it's kind of racist to say this, but the all-American type, like the all-American, well, she's older, so like in the 60s, what she would have characterized as the all-American, so a Caucasian man with light-colored eyes and light-colored hair, etc., right? And she basically ended up with a Chinese man, so, and that relationship has been like very long for her, so, that's her husband now. So that's kind of the energy I'm getting of this, that maybe there's a laundry list in your head, since we have like a lot of the sort of mental energy going in. And so maybe like one of the reasons why you're not saying yes is because perhaps like when you're going through the laundry list of things you want in a person, laundry list isn't the right term. Wish list, your wish list, like your top 10 things that you're looking for in a mate. If you're making that sort of initial judgment of, you're just going line by line through the list. It's like, oh, well, the person I just met just asked me out on a date, but he only has like, 2 of the 10 qualities that I have on my laundry list, so I'm not going to go out with him. I think being open, I think the lesson here is maybe being open to things that are not on your laundry list, because, the lesson of the 9 of Swords is that things that are going on in your head, like the voice inside your head and your ego and all of that stuff, a lot of that stuff turns out not to be real, right? People who suffer from anxiety, which I associate with the Suit of Swords, anxiety is all about like having a, what do they call it? Fight or flight reactions, and like your body like is like in fight or flight mode, and your brain is releasing chemicals even though there's no bear chasing you, like it's because you're stuck in traffic or because your boss yelled at you or whatever. That's all in your head, and it's all about how you relate to what's in your head. So I think really what's tying it in together, and maybe if I were you, I would like maybe journal about this. Journal about what your top 10 list is, and then journal about whether or not those things that have maybe been on your top 10 list for a very long time are maybe not the right things to focus on. And maybe that's part of the reinvention, right? That who you are and who you are seeing yourself with, maybe that's a part of the reevaluation. Maybe that's even a part of this orthodoxy here. Maybe there's something about the type of person that you're looking for, the orthodoxy here that's kind of blocking you. Could be like, well, my parents wanted me to end up with this kind of person. If they're still alive or not alive, I don't know. But if they are still alive, maybe you are still trying to find the mate that will please one or more of your parents, and maybe it's time to cast that off. It could be like, I have I have an Indian American friend who says like, I can only marry a brown person. My parents would kill me if I married a white person. Like that kind of thing, where it's like, okay, well, that's orthodoxy, but is that actually what's going to make you happy? Maybe not. So maybe that could also be a part of the transformation that needs to happen, because all of those rules, lists, the orthodoxy, the wish list, it's all in your head. So I think you know, the final bit is like the advice of this card is that, you know, all of the rules, all of the things, all of the thoughts that you have in your head, thoughts are not real. So it could be time to dispense with some sort of thoughts that are driving the situation here in order for you to actually get to the really emotionally fulfilling and happy relationship. So, you know, tarot is about advice. If any of this rang true, and I hope it did, my pragmatic advice to you would be to like reflect on this and really journal about it, since, you know, you have opportunity and we're trying to figure out why that opportunity isn't turning into actual relationships. So you're already like got a leg up too, because there are a lot of people out there, they don't get asked out on dates. So the fact that you're being asked out on dates, yay, you've already like, you're over like a number of the hurdles if people are approaching you and you're attracting people into your life in that way. But why are the matches not manifesting? So hopefully, you know, with what we talked about, if you journal about it a little bit and reflect, maybe there's a little bit of reinvention of yourself in order to make it happen, that you could do by maybe examining whatever kind of thoughts are kind of like, you know, what's written on a tablet in your head and what might need to be revised. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for the opportunity to read for you. I hope that this was helpful, and take care.